Welcome back to swineweb.com podcast, Neogen, the single source for all your biosecurity needs with Matt Meyer. Welcome to the program, Matt.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate you having me on today.
I know you're the sales manager for animal protein. Maybe give the audience a brief background of what you do and who you are.
Yeah, be happy to. I've been with Neogen for about 11 years, Jim, and through that time worn several different hats. But like you said, currently I'm the sales manager for Neogen's animal protein team, which is part of our animal safety division. So myself included, we have 12 individuals across North America that promote Neogen biosecurity solutions to the pork, poultry, and cattle markets.
So how do you define what the single source for all your biosecurity needs mean?
Great question. And, a good biosecurity program, I'll say, is a very complex machine, right? It requires a lot of expertise and a lot of unique products and solutions that not only are effective, but it's got to be something that can be implemented in a farm setting. So at Neogen, we have a broad portfolio of those biosecurity solutions that are really specifically designed for production animal applications. And in addition to that, we've got a host of field level support to ensure that producer is using the right product in the right fashion. So whether it's cleaners and disinfectants, water treatment solutions, rodent or insect control, vet instruments, or even things like personal protective equipment. Neogen supplies all of these, and it's often a very big advantage to our producer customers who would rather have a single point of contact for all of those solutions as compared to many for all of these products.
So I'm not sure if this definition makes sense. So you're not just selling a product, you guys have the complete solution. So if you're going to build a house, you hire a builder and he takes care of everything rather than hiring a tradesman. Is
that's correct? And I think that's what's unique about Neogen is the fact that we offer everything under the biosecurity umbrella, and we're the only manufacturer, we're the only industry partner that provides that broad portfolio of biosecurity products in the industry, Jim.
So you guys recently launched a new D3X needle. So I know they launched this before the Iowa Pork Congress. You guys had some good feedback at the Congress. So explain what the needle is and then your interpretation of the response.
Sure. No, the new D3X needle is something that we're extremely excited about, Jim. Historically, Neogen has been the supplier of detectable needles to the swine and the beef markets for over 20 years now. And this solution of offering detectable needles really fits squarely into the mission statement of Neogen, which is to protect the global food supply. So a few years ago, we began working on a project to add another layer of detectability to what we were already offering with the D3X, with the D3, and the D3X is essentially the outcome of that project. So we kept all of the advantages of the old D3, which is a durable needle with a patented metal alloy that allows those needles to be up to 100% detectable at line speed at the processing plant. But we added what we've termed an extraction collar to the cannula of these new D3X needles. So in the unlikely event, Jim, that needle breaks on the farm, the extraction collar prevents the cannula of that needle from migrating below the surface of the skin of the animal, and it allows the vaccinator to visually identify where it's at in the animal, what animal it's in, if it's in a pen of pigs, and simply reach down and pull it out. So it's a simple addition, but in our opinion, is a very revolutionary technology, and we're excited to offer it to both the pork and the beef markets. And so far, The reception has been tremendous. Like you said, we launched it and had commercially available inventory just before Iowa Pork this year, and the reception has been great thus far.
So now you can find a needle in a haystack.
Now you can find a needle in a haystack. That is correct.
So let's talk about 3 underrated points of entry not being focused on. Is that some tips you have for us, Matt?
Sure. Yeah. If I'm thinking about from a biosecurity standpoint, 3 points of entry that maybe are forgotten about or not focused on as much as they should, I guess I would start with rodents, right? So in addition to being a nuisance, and wreaking a lot of havoc to barns and facilities, rodents can also be a major vector of disease. So having a solid rodent control program is pretty vital to having a well-rounded biosecurity program. The second one that I would suggest would be water. So when I say water, I'm talking about the actual water that the animals are consuming, right? Water is the largest oral input in production animals, right? We spend a lot of time and money focused on feed quality and formulation of diets, but we often overlook water because we simply don't see it and just assume that it's okay. But pigs and cattle and poultry drink a lot more water than they eat feed, right? So it's something that I think needs some more focus. And then the third piece that I would recommend kind of piggybacks off the water talk, but it's the water lines, right? So the inside of the lines that are bringing the water from wherever your source is to the animals. The inside of those water lines can be a prime breeding ground for microorganisms. Think about it. I mean, it's warm, it's wet and dark. So especially in situations where you've got rooms or barns that are free of animals for a period of time and that water sits stagnant, that can be just a prime breeding ground. So cleaning the inside of those water lines, we've shown through research, can have some pretty substantial production advantages. And now we can do that in a fairly easy fashion and without the fear of whatever is inside those water lines clogging the drinkers, because I know sometimes that can be a very much a nightmare.
And your colleague Stu Heller said the water line topic comes up at a lot of trade shows too, and it's pretty important.
Yeah, that's correct. It is, and again, like to your point, to your question, I think it's something that's often overlooked just because we can't see the inside of that water line unless we cut it open.
And the rodent thing makes sense because there's a lot of truck wash products and things like that, but there's little creatures that get in that, as you just discussed, that there's ways to get the whole thing lined up correctly for biosecurity.
That's correct.
Now, AASV was in your backyard this year. I know you just mentioned you're from Colorado. How
Yep.
was AASV?
I thought it was great. Like you said, it's I'm just about 45 minutes north of the Gaylord there in Denver, so it was super convenient for me. But it really felt good, and it has felt good for quite some time to be back in what we'll call a normal trade show environment with friends and colleagues in the industry. I felt like that the attendance was great. And the talks were really good too. Boy, there's just a lot of exciting things going on in the industry right now, and Neogen is excited to be part of some of those discussions.
What other advice do you have to help producers stay on top of biosecurity, Matt?
Yeah, I guess 3 things come to mind, and I mentioned one a little bit earlier, but really, when it comes to biosecurity, having a well-rounded program is a must. Right? It only takes one weak link in that chain for the whole thing to collapse. So you could have the best cleaning and disinfecting program that exists. You could have employees that always follow the rules and do their job the way they're supposed to. But one small thing could happen for an outbreak to occur, right? So you got to have a well-rounded program. And you mentioned Stu Heller. So my second piece of advice is something that Stu says often, which is biosecurity doesn't cost, it pays. So my advice would be, don't look at biosecurity as an additional spend for your operation. Look at it as an investment or an insurance policy that's giving you a return. And then thirdly, I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help, right? As I mentioned, biosecurity and a good program is a very complex machine. And as producers, you know, you're experts in growing animals, and there's plenty of resources that exist either from your veterinarian or from folks in the industry to help you create a comprehensive biosecurity program. And Neogen is here to help and support you in that endeavor.
Great information, Matt. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Jim, for the time.
Matt Meyer from Neogen Corporation.